This is the B&O Sports Show with your hosts, Tanner Ballard and Garrett Otto.
Hey, and welcome back to the B&O Sports Show. This is episode 9 of this lovely podcast here. I'm Garrett Otto, alongside with Tanner Ballard. Tanner, how you doing today?
Doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm hanging in there. Had some rainy, bad weather, but never a dull moment here in Illinois. So
No snow?
No, actually, it was like 45, and it thunderstormed last night. So
yeah,
that kind of shows you what. I mean, the weather here is like the most inconsistent, I think.
Oh man,
in the U.S. maybe.
Hey, you should take a trip down to Georgia because it is. I mean, we literally, yesterday it was like 72 degrees, and then we had a major thunderstorm last night, just like where you're living up in Illinois. But, I mean, yeah, talk about Georgia weather, like, we're talking super cold one day, decently warm the next day, cloudy, it's like sunny and raining outside at the same time. It's all over the place. I don't know what to say sometimes, but...
At least you guys get some warm weather. Although I can't be too mad because for January we had a really mild January. Oh, the other big news in this fine town of Geneva, we had our second murder in 2 years. Yeah.
Whoa.
No joke. We went 40 years without a murder in this safe town, and then we've had 2 in the past 2 years. So
it's kind of a dark scene.
Yeah, we're kind of turning to the south side here. Chirac. Maybe Spike Lee's going to need to redo his movie, but base it on Geneva instead of Chicago.
I mean, Spike Lee did a heck of a job with, NBA 2K16, Living the Dream.
Living the Dream. Not the.
Living the Dream. Born as...
Frequency Vibrations.
Frequency Vibrations, baby. Freaking and vibing. Freaking and vibing.
Freaking and vibing.
Harlem, New York. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Yeah, you could say that.
Know, man. Good for, 2K trying to expand and, do something different. I don't know how well it worked, but...
Yeah, no, I appreciate their efforts. I appreciate Spike Lee's efforts. Just certain things that didn't quite make a lot of sense on my screen, but not...
And then it's kind of like you want to, you buy an NBA video game to play basketball and not, sit there and watch...
a movie.
10-minute cutscenes, yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, anyways.
Well, Tanner, if we're going to talk about sports, I just got a quick update here. Barcelona's up 7-0 right now, and Luis Suarez has 4 goals. That's pretty incredible.
That is pretty incredible. I'm not surprised, however, because Barcelona is, in fact, the best team in the world of football or soccer or football, whatever the heck you call it. Who are they playing?
Valencia.
Valencia is the team. This is funny. Valencia is managed by a man by the name of Gary Neville. Gary Neville, who is a former Manchester United right back. He was doing English commentary for, I think it was Day of the Match in England. He was one of the most popular. He is one of the most popular English footballers. And he was really popular on the show that he did with Jamie Gallagher. I think that's how, yeah. But anyways, he left that one to go and manage Valencia, and I wouldn't say that he's having the best of times down there, besides the fact that he doesn't speak Spanish. But yeah,
that might be an issue.
A 7-0 defeat to Barcelona. Even though it's Barcelona, 7-0 defeat is pretty... That's pretty wicked. Feel kind of bad for him, but, maybe it wasn't meant to be.
It's kind of impressive that, 7-0 was kind of almost, not routine. Obviously, this seems to be, an extreme, but, 3, 4, 5-0 victories.
Right.
Or 3, 4, 5 goal victories are pretty common for this team. But, when you have the skill that they have with Suarez and Messi, unbelievable. You
MSN.
Don't need those two.
MSN, Messi, Suarez, Neymar.
So,
sick.
Well, That was a quick tidbit. I don't know, maybe we should get back on track here.
Yeah, we're gonna cover some soccer later on in the podcast, aren't we?
I think so. Yeah, it seems that's what we're planning here. But
Sounds
I just saw it, pop up on my little sports feed. Also, Kevin Garnett is number 21 in the all-time NBA rank. That's the other breaking news.
Well, congratulations to him, I guess. I would have to.
Maybe we can talk about that later too.
Yeah, I'd have to take a look at that list to see what kind of players fall behind him. But
It'll be interesting. This top 20. That's kind of that's like your really elite of all time, I guess.
right.
So that'll be fun to look at.
Well, shall we get into, like you said, we're kind of trying to get back on track here as far as what we had planned to talk about. Now, concerning the game of football, of American football, there is only one game left. And that is, in fact, the Super Bowl 50. Not Super Bowl 50 with Roman numerals, but just Super Bowl 50. And it is...
Do we know what the Super Bowl would be with Roman numerals?
Oh, man. I think...
50.
I'm not sure if
in
50
Roman numerals.
I don't know if it's like just 5x, like 5 X's.
No, it's like it's an L. It's just an L.
Oh, L is 50?
Yep.
Boy, I am
Just
obviously
L.
not up to date on my Roman numerals. Can't say that I've used a Roman numeral in like any of my schooling.
Yeah.
Or at least past like the Roman numeral 10. So
It'll be like, maybe they got rid of it because like Super Bowl L, loss, lose.
yeah, I can see where you're going with that.
I don't know. And just because they like, gold 50. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a neat thing. It's one to be remembered, for sure.
All right, so Super Bowl 50, man.
Super Bowl 50, man. Who's doing the halftime show again? Coldplay.
Coldplay and Beyonce.
Coldplay and Beyonce. Coldplay
I
has.
don't know how those two are gonna flow
I
together.
don't know either, because Coldplay does have some songs with, but Rihanna is. It's Rihanna who's like.
Uh-huh.
Who's
I know
singing
when they
with
did
him.
work with her.
Yeah, I can't remember what that song is called now, but
There's one on a older album, Milo Loto, called Princess of China.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good song. But
That's a really good song, yeah.
I don't know.
It was one of their more popular ones off that album.
Right. And I don't know if I don't know if they're planning on having Beyonce sing that part, or if they're just gonna like go back and take some of Beyonce's song and sing along. I don't know. You know what I'm hoping for is a surprise performance from Jay-Z.
Hey, you never know.
You never know. I think, come on.
Wasn't it last year? I don't think they actually announced. Maybe they did. I don't know. Missy Elliott kind of came out.
Yeah.
I can't remember if she was planned or not.
I feel like she probably was, but she just didn't like get very much attention prior to it.
Katy Perry was their number one,
yeah,
right?
she was like the headline. I don't know. That really, I don't like dislike Katy Perry's music, but I just don't think. The only thing I remember for that one was that stupid shark.
Left Shark.
Yeah, gosh, that just overtook everything.
Gone.
So,
what a weird thing.
You know what? Bruno Mars did a great job though when he did his halftime performance. What was that?
Bruno Mars.
2 years ago? Yeah.
I don't remember when Bruno Mars.
It was sick. He had he opened the entire thing on the drums, and he just banged out a nice little drum solo before he got to the stage, and then started playing. And I think he brought on the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I was gonna say I think the Chili Peppers came on. Oh,
controversial.
Boy. What they throw some weird combinations out there, like Coldplay and Beyonce don't really.
They don't. Yeah.
But Bruno Mars and Red Hot Chili Peppers really don't mix.
Yeah,
that one's kind of an oddball
opposites.
One.
Well, whatever.
Yeah. What year was it? This was, I think it was only 3 or 4 years ago. Do you remember when MIA was performing at the Super Bowl halftime show, and she flipped the bird on live TV?
Oh.
And they fined her $250,000.
I do remember that. I vaguely remember that. I can't say that I can picture it perfectly, but I do vaguely remember that.
I just remember hearing about her getting fined or whatever much money because
what a dummy.
whoever runs TV, whoever runs what you can and cannot do on TV. Got real mad at that one, considering it's like the biggest audience of the year.
The FCC, is that?
It might be.
Is that the right one?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Which is funny because like it's the industry I want to get into. I guess I should probably know that. Maybe I'll look that up afterwards.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, I gotta say, for people who are like complaining that Coldplay is doing the halftime show, they're more. I don't know if they're complaining about the fact that they don't like Coldplay's music, which I think is ridiculous. How can you not like Coldplay's music unless like you like screamo and stuff? But I've seen some things about how Coldplay is, they're a British band, and people are like, oh, British band, this is American football. But let's just throw it back to when the Rolling Stones did the halftime performance. What was that, like 4 or 5 years ago? Or was it longer?
I have no
That may have been like a really long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, this isn't the first time that a British band has done the halftime show. Let's forget about it. Plus, the NFL, they're trying to reach into to the English population with those games in London. So, who knows where they're going with it?
Well, all right. Well, halftime's over, so I guess we could talk about the game a little bit.
Sure.
Just quick discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I think mostly just kind of predictions for the game. How are you feeling about this game and what the outcome is going to be?
I've heard a lot of things. I've seen a lot of things, and I still don't really see Denver coming out on top in the grand scheme of things. Excuse me. I don't know if you saw this one this week, Garrett, but the Madden 16 EA Sports did their Madden 16 simulation of the Pro Bowl, or of the Super Bowl, not the Pro Bowl. Forget about the Pro Bowl. They did their simulation of the Super Bowl, and the way that the game panned out on the game actually represents what you would think would happen in the Super Bowl itself. Like, Carolina got off to a good start as usual, got like a 17-0 lead, and then the Broncos staged a comeback but couldn't complete it, which is very reminiscent of how the Panthers games have gone recently, So
it's interesting.
Yeah, I can definitely see a game like that where the Panthers get a hot start and, like the past, they kind of let off the brakes, it seems like, or maybe the Broncos gather themselves and come back. Or on the flip side, we could see a very stout Denver defense holding off Cam Newton, holding off, Jonathan Stewart, and making their offense struggle, which could put their defense on the tip. I don't know. My question is really, watching Peyton Manning, play against the Patriots, he wasn't very impressive. I know people are saying, well, here's Peyton Manning getting to his 4th Super Bowl, and he helped the team win and whatnot. I just don't. He didn't look good enough to me, but that's just me. I don't know about you. What do you thought?
He hasn't looked. Well, he hasn't looked good all season.
Yeah.
There's a reason. I mean, obviously he got hurt, and that's why they went with Brock. But he seemed to be okay to play, and they still kept Osweiler in. Personally, when it comes down to this game, I'm gonna reach out there, and I'm gonna say I think Denver's gonna take this one. I really want Denver to win this. I want Peyton Manning to get a ring, but I really do think. And I feel like I say this every time Carolina plays someone, especially in the playoffs. But I just feel like Carolina has not faced a defense like they will face in the Denver defense, which is fair to say because Denver has had the number 1 defense.
Right.
And man, it kind of bugs me because all season I was just waiting for them to essentially to lose because I just didn't think they had a good enough team. And they've obviously proved me wrong so far. But I'm just not sure if they can put up enough points against this Denver defense to put the game out of reach of what Peyton can do. I think, again, I mentioned this last week, if Peyton can realize this is probably his last game and at least his last shot at getting another Super Bowl ring, he might be able to go out there and put on a show. He's got the offensive talent around him. He's obviously got the defense. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people with their performance, but I've been wrong the past 2 weeks about the Panthers, so they can probably prove me wrong. I've been wrong about them all season, but I'm going to go with the Denver. Let's see, I'll go with Denver. I'm going to take them in a 20-16 win over the
Tight.
Carolina Panthers.
Before I put in my prediction here, do you think there's any odds, like say Peyton Manning comes out there and just sucks it up, like he's just awful? Are there any odds that we see Brock Osweiler in this game? You know, if the Panthers defense really gets to Peyton and he's like throwing interceptions and fumbling, and I guess not fumbling, but he's just looking awful, you know. Are there any odds, do you think, that we see Brock Osweiler in the Super Bowl?
I think it would be a tough decision because Peyton has so much experience in the playoffs, and I would assume Peyton will have, you know, some of the least nerves out on the field. I'm sure he's still going to get nervous because it's the Super Bowl, but I would hope that Carolina does have some sort of game plan for Brock Osweiler and has looked at his film and studied him, because there is that possibility. There's a possibility that Peyton gets hurt and Brock Osweiler has to come in. And he has proved himself to be able to manage a game enough so that defense can do what they do and get the win. So I think it would be wrong of Carolina not to look at that as a possibility. So yeah, I would say it is a possibility that we see that, but it's hard to pull someone like Peyton Manning out of a Super Bowl, you know, just based on experience.
Yeah. Okay, so for my prediction, I'm going to have to say I just think Carolina's offense is going to be too much for the Broncos defense in the end. I'm going to say 31-14 Panthers. Like I said, I just think it's going to be too much. Panthers are just going to be too much. But, you know, set aside, let's not set aside personal bias here. And like Garrett, I am going to be cheering for the Broncos and Peyton Manning. Just because, yeah, I mean, unless you're a Panthers fan or unless you hate the Broncos and Peyton Manning for some reason, who wouldn't want to see Peyton Manning get another ring? You know, he's the classiest guy around, one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback of all time. It would be awesome to see him go out as a champion. Well,
it's just
go ahead.
I just want, if anything, I hope it's a close game, because you look at Peyton Manning's last Super Bowl, and granted it was Seattle, so I kind of enjoyed it, but Seattle put a beating on the Broncos, and it was shocking because they had a league record-setting offense, and Seattle just shut them down. I just don't want that to happen again. USA Today, I believe it was, ranked that as the worst Super Bowl ever out of all 49.
Wow.
So you don't want to see that happen to Peyton again, especially when he seems like he's on his way out. He might stick around for another season, but definitely seems like he'll be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still think in that Super Bowl it was that fumble. Was it the first snap of the game?
It was the very first snap of the game.
I still
safety.
think that was the play, you know?
And then it was they finally got to halftime, and I can't remember the exact score at halftime. It was 20-something. And it was okay, well, maybe if they come out, you know, and rejuvenated and can try and pull back in, and then Percy Harvin just took one to the house, and then that was the for sure, that was the nail in the coffin, man. That was one crazy game. I don't know. I was okay with it, but no one else was.
Don't get too excited.
Yeah.
Well, we were discussing this before the show. Cam Newton could become the second quarterback of all time to get the, you know, quote-unquote quadruple, which would be winning the Heisman, winning a national championship in college, winning a Super Bowl, and an MVP award. The only other person to do that is Marcus Allen. Is that right? Yeah.
I believe I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's any players, not just quarterbacks.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I mean that's impressive.
Yeah. Okay.
There's really no doubting that he's in, you know, kind of company of his own almost, except for one other player.
Yeah. Well, that would definitely be unique. That would be historic. Be pretty cool for anyone who's a Cam Newton fan. but very not cool for any fans who aren't Cam Newton fans. Well, I mean, so we've got the Super Bowl coming up. That's obviously going to be fun to watch. Hopefully it's tight game. Some other just random NFL news, if we could here, Garrett. Johnny Manziel moving on. He is leaving the Browns, or rather, the Browns are leaving him. I've heard some things about how he could go to Dallas. You know, could fit right in there with Jerry Jones's crew of players.
Yeah, can you imagine Johnny Manziel, Des Bryant, and Greg Hardy on the same team?
Who, man, that would be a heck of a team.
And expect nothing to go wrong. They'll work fine together. Greg Hardy and Johnny Manziel are going to get along perfectly.
Yeah. Throw some fuel
especially
on the
when they're at the bars late at night.
So that could go a number of different ways. Who knows?
Jerry, do what you want, man, but think about it before you do it, please.
Wonder what Skip Bayless has to say about it. You know, being the outstanding Cowboys fan that he is.
Listen,
love to hear some commentary.
Johnny is a dear friend of mine.
Oh,
but Jerry Jones, you need to understand. That's it. That's all I've got. That, I'm actually gonna have to give a shout out to Saturday Night Live. What is his name? Jay Farrow?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a perfect. He does a real good impression of Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah,
it's fun to watch.
And
then I like tune into First Take. I watch First Take, and I think of the impression, and I just see it. I'm like, this actually works perfectly.
Yeah, those guys. I don't know. ESPN just keeps them to get ratings, I guess, whether they're negative or not. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Not gonna worry about it though. I just saw this, Garrett. This is interesting. The Broncos, the Denver Broncos, are 5-0 in games with Super Bowl referee Clete Blakeman.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
Of
course, the man who can't flip a coin. So there's already some controversy surrounding. Yeah, I know. There's already some controversy surrounding him, right?
Yes.
I
do. Yeah.
What are we saying here? What are we trying to say? I don't know.
Boy,
I'm just wondering.
I'd be interested to see what those 5 games were.
How long has he been around that the Broncos have been to 5 Super Bowls?
No, is it 5 Super Bowls or 5 games? No, because the Broncos haven't. Is it 5 Super Bowls or just 5 games?
No. Yeah. 5 games. 5 games. I read that wrong. I thought it said. I thought it said Broncos 5-0 in Super Bowls with referee Cleveland. I was like, criminy.
Maybe the Patriots.
5-0 in games with Super Bowl referee Clete Blakeman.
Yeah. Okay, I could see that. Okay.
Yeah.
I was a little worried there for a second.
Yeah,
I was like, hold on.
Geez, is this guy like 70 years old?
How old is he going to be able to run?
He actually looks pretty young.
Peyton Manning, I don't know. Peyton Manning can't run either. Do you think you could outrun Peyton Manning in a 40-yard dash right now?
Personally, I'm not the fastest guy, but I'm not ruling it out, if you know what I mean.
I just wonder because, obviously he's in the NFL. He made it to the NFL. He has to have, a lot of athletic ability.
Do you remember when he accelerated for that first down against the Patriots?
Oh, boy.
When he, turned on the burners?
Yeah. I don't know how, what are we talking about with burners when you're talking about Peyton Manning?
I'm talking about, just a steady little flame, like a match, Like you just struck a match.
Gosh, I love Peyton Manning. Don't get me wrong, but boy, when he runs, I'm like, jeez.
Yeah.
Someone needs to put that, just get on the ground. I'm afraid for him. Just watching it from my own couch, thousands of miles away.
Yeah.
I'm just afraid he's going to take off and land awkwardly and just tear his ACL and he'll be done.
That was the fear of the Packers fans all year with Aaron Rodgers. Because we had to.
Which is funny because probably no one really feared that with Robert Griffin III for a while, and then he did it.
Yeah.
He, scrambled backwards and he tore his. Was it his? I don't know. One of his ligaments there.
One of those CLs.
Oh man. Okay, so I think not ESPN. Okay, NFL is almost wrapped up But one thing I just want to note kind of was earlier in the week for news. Calvin Johnson,
Oh,
he's done.
that's right,
Retired.
he's done. See you later.
It's weird because the Super Bowl is like overshadowing that, I think. It hasn't been doesn't seem like as big as news as it would have been maybe. But yeah, how do you think that's going to affect the Lions? I mean, obviously he's a top-notch player.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Do they still have Golden Tate? Is that kind of their second?
Yeah.
Okay, so
If
maybe
if I'm not mistaken, I think he will be in his last year of his contract. I can't remember if it was a 3 or a 5 year. I'm not positive.
Yeah. Well, whether he's around or not next year will certainly be a factor. But I mean, yeah, Calvin Johnson was arguably one of the best receivers in the game this year. He has been for the past couple of years. Big target for Matthew Stafford. I mean, like literally, he's huge. And yeah, I mean that's kind of upsetting for football fans, because he was fun to watch, Unless he's playing against your team, he's a fun player to watch. So he'll certainly be missed. And yeah, I mean for the Lions, who were so on and off this season, and sometimes had good games and sometimes had bad games, certainly the lack of their best receiver is going to hurt them. So I don't know. I'd hope for their organization, Stafford and the other guys are able to figure out a way to get their offense running hard. So
it was kind of like I think more so this season. He didn't always have big yardage games, but just because of how like his sheer size, he would always finish with, you'd see he'd have games and he may not hit 100 yards, but he had like 3 touchdowns just because.
Yeah.
There's like no cornerbacks in the league where if you throw a jump ball, they're gonna be able to get it over him.
Yeah.
So
right.
I don't know. Just wanted to mention that I think he'll be considered one of the better wide receivers of all time. I don't think he's gonna take like Jerry Rice's spot as the best, but
No.
he was definitely a force, and he was the number one guy in the league for a while. He had a good stretch there. Yeah. Just had to give him a shout out, but what are we moving on here? I think we're moving on to some good old hockey, right?
So, hey, let's get it going, Yeah, so we want to talk about some hockey here, and we want to talk about specifically a story that is just, I mean, I can't even it's hard to put it into words how amazing the story of John Scott is, I mean, I don't want to ruin the entire thing, because there's an article on the Players Tribune. Garrett sent it to me. He was the one who showed me it initially. What's it called? A Guy Like Me?
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So it was an article written by the Players Tribune. Are the articles written by the players, or are they in conjunction, like a journalist writes the article with the player?
I believe they write them. I'm not positive.
Really? John Scott has a career in journalism set for him then.
He's a pretty smart guy. I mean, he went to Michigan Tech, I want to say it was, if I'm not mistaken. He mentions it in the article.
Right. He's got an engineering degree, doesn't he?
And I would assume that obviously they write it, and whether it be an actual staff writer or someone corrects it and kind of fixes it for them.
Right.
But obviously they want the player to tell their story, so I think it's mostly the player, and then just grammar and whatever's corrected.
Yeah. Well, so anyways, this story came out, and it's just an amazing story, a tearjerker if you're really a hockey fan. If you're a Blackhawks fan, obviously John Scott spent some time with the Blackhawks. Basically, here's a guy channeling my inner frickin' Collinsworth. What's his name?
Chris
Collinsworth. Yeah. Now here's a guy. Here's a guy who's 6'8", just not not the most skilled hockey player when it comes to stick handling, skating, speed, elusiveness, shooting, all of those things. Basically, he's not very good, but he's an amazing guy. He's got a great family, 2 little girls. His wife is pregnant with twins, mind you, right now. So, the story goes that he spent some time in the NHL after, working his way up to the AHL, spending some time in the NHL, learns to be a big man, to go out there and to fight people, hit people, basically the presence of the enforcer in the NHL is to not only, provide some fighting entertainment for the crowd, but to get your team fired up, You go out there to make big hits. You go out there to fight somebody, to win the fight and get your team pumped up, so they can get out there and, hopefully provide some momentum for the team. But anyways, the NHL, and we talked about this last week, I believe, the NHL comes around with, this All-Star Game idea where the fans are going to vote. It's not the first time this has happened, and the fans take advantage of it, and John Scott becomes the highest voted player, in the entire NHL. And basically, this is what I gathered from it, Garrett, is that the NHL must have told the Coyotes general manager, they must have came to him and said, look, you got to get this guy to decommit from the All-Star Game because we don't want him there. That's what I got from it. And so, basically they tell him, the NHL and the Coyotes GM basically tell him, look, John Scott, we don't want you in this All-Star Game. You're not supposed to be there because you're not an All-Star. Even though the fans voted you in, you're just not skilled enough, so we want you out. And he said, no, I want to be there. And so they traded him. The Coyotes traded him to the Montreal Canadiens, who then sent him to the St. John's Ice Caps of the AHL. So now he's not even an NHL hockey player. He's back in the minor league AHL, not like a week or two away from the All-Star Game. So that sparked controversy. Like I said, I think we covered this last week with the hashtag #FreeJohnScott. And the NHL reviewed their quote-unquote rule book and said, oh, yeah, due to, whatever, basically the fans crying out for John Scott, we're going to let him come back. So the All-Star Game was this past weekend, the NHL All-Star Game, and it was just like it was the greatest thing. I mean, John Scott looked like he was just having a heck of a time. Always had a smile on his face, was always, like, he was taking pictures with people, he's taking pictures of people, like usually the player is the one to get his picture taken, but no, John Scott is taking pictures of the people. Having the best time. The skills competition was fun. And so then, the game rolls around, and you got to see this one, didn't you, Garrett? The All-Star Game?
I did, yeah. I saw most of both of the games that he played in. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so like he goes out there, the All-Star Game, the way it's set up, it's like, the Eastern Conference plays and the Western Conference plays, but the Eastern Conference has two divisions in it, so both divisions play each other in a 3-on-3 match, and then the Western Conference divisions play in a 3-on-3 match, and then the winner of each match meets in the middle, so it's an Eastern Conference versus Western Conference championship. And so John Scott was out there for the Western Conference game, and he scored a goal. It was Brett Burns who set him up, and the celebration, like the crowd went insane, and the celebration, he goes down on one knee and just celebrates harder than any of the other guys who were out there, which is just great. He had another one, didn't he?
He had a breakaway goal.
Yeah, that's right.
No joke, like, these guys aren't going to go easy on him. Keep in mind, they're playing for some serious money. What, the team split $1 million in the final, right?
Right.
Yeah, so they're playing for some serious money. John Scott gets a breakaway. He's got a defender on his back. The goalie's putting up an effort, and John Scott puts it top left, puts it right in the corner. Yeah, man, that was
legendary.
The first goal was like, okay, well, assist to Brett Burns, and John Scott just finished it off, but he did the dirty work on his second one. It was nice to see. And then I got to bring up the moment. I know you saw this.
Yes.
Patrick Kane. Yeah, you already know what I'm talking about.
I know, dude.
Patrick Kane, he ended up scoring a goal, but kind of in the process, I think John Scott stuck out his stick to try and, really just get the puck away from him. Kind of tripped up Patrick Kane. Well, Patrick Kane puts this thing in, and he goes right over to John Scott. He throws off the gloves. He drops his stick. He grabs John Scott in his, by his sweater, and John Scott's just having a kick out of it. He can't, he's sitting there with the biggest smile on his face. Like you said, I mean, it's just great to see, all around. What a, great guy, and he finally gets to, have the time of his life, probably the time of his career. So, I mean, just great to see.
Yeah. Well, and, it was great because he ended up, not only did his team end up winning the entire All-Star Game, but he was also voted the MVP, which is just, it was just the coolest thing. Like, he skates out there to get his MVP award, and, his teammates picked him up. Joe Pavelski, I think, was the one who inspired his teammates to like pick him up, and skate him around. I mean, it was just the greatest thing. I mean, it's like just truly a heartwarming story. It's so fun to see a guy like him be able to have a great time. His family obviously had a great time, and I mean, most of those guys who were there in the All-Star game on his team that were getting that $1 million check, most of them I think are making just fine, fine money. I don't really think they need that whatever $1 million is split up among them. So I don't know. Hopefully they let John Scott keep it all because he doesn't really have the salary that they do, especially as an AHL player. So that was just an incredible thing. I mean, one of those things that just the result of that. Seeing how happy John Scott and his family was, it's the reason why I love hockey. It truly is just an amazing sport, and it's something that all sports fans can just, look at and say, man, sports are awesome. You can't write stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, like a great hockey story, a great sports story. I think it'll definitely be one of the better ones of the year. And it's, every year something kind of like this happens. Just a good story that has sports in it and, overcoming. He didn't necessarily overcome adversity in the in the most typical way, but he did face, a lot of opposition from the company that, or whatever you want to call it, the league, I guess,
Yeah.
that he plays for. And
right.
He kind of stood up to him. And the NHL, they've had some major issues over the past 20 years or so with just lockouts. It seems like every time one that is possible, a lockout happens. And so Gary Bettman hasn't been the most liked guy. This probably won't help him.
Yeah.
But John Scott kind of stood up and wasn't going to take it. He got voted in just like all the other players. So
yeah, I gotta say, shame on the NHL, because I read this, that somebody from the NHL actually called John Scott and asked him, is this something that your girls or your family will be proud of? I mean, that is so ridiculous. That is so just inhumane. That is a absurd question to ask. And what's ridiculous is that the NHL brought this on themselves. This is all of their fault. Everything is all their fault. It's their fault for making the fan vote. It's their fault that John Scott got it. They can't blame anyone but themselves for John Scott's election. And then you're gonna go out there and try to, undercover get rid of him, and then bring him back like, oh, hey, John Scott, we wanted him here all the time. No, you didn't. You're not tricky, NHL. We know exactly what you planned on. So that's really disappointing from them.
You think of that question, is this something your kids or your family's going to be proud of? Why would they not be proud of it? He's in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. It's not like his girls are going to grow up and see, oh, Dad, all you did was fight people. You got in the All-Star game. Well, who cares about that? Who cares that you made the All-Star game because all you did was fight people the rest of your career? No, he was voted MVP of a All-Star game. Of course his kids are going to love that. His kids are going to treasure that All-Star jersey for the rest of their life. They're going to, that's something that they're going to pass on for generations. Like, eventually some kid is going to say, like, oh, yeah, my grandfather, my great-grandpa, was an MVP in the NHL All-Star game. That's unbelievable. It doesn't matter what the backstory was or what he did the rest of his career. Of course his family's going to be proud of this. So, yeah, shame on the NHL, man. What they did to him was unbelievable. Just a disgrace to the league. It really...
Yeah.
The fact that they tried to cover it all up and make it look like they didn't have any involvement, now that kind of everything has come out and he put that article out there, really puts them to shame. And I would hope they do something for him or put a statement out there, but I don't know. They may, most likely won't, but it's something. I think their reputation, which wasn't a strong one, has been tarnished more now.
Yeah. Well, John Scott also, mind you, he also won a car. They had a Honda Pilot out there for him to take for his family, which is quite a nice car, the Honda Pilot.
It is.
We are not
family
sponsored
car
by Honda.
too.
It is a family car.
You can fit a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, fit all four of his children in there. So good for him. I mean, just an absolutely. If you haven't heard enough about it, if you haven't looked into it, definitely look into that story. Read the article. Watch the Patrick Kane versus John Scott fight. It's absolutely legendary, and it'll make you happy, you know. So, that being said, some other NHL news. Dennis Weidman, the Calgary Flames defenseman, the alternate captain, which is even more disappointing considering the situation that he's in, suspended 20 games for hitting the referee. Now, Garrett, I think you got to this one before I did because you sent me the video or something about it. This is really controversial, and this is really kind of a ridiculous thing. I don't know about you, but I think that he should have been banned more than 20 games.
Yeah, gosh, if you watch the video, I mean, it's ugly. If he did this to another player, it would have been ugly. But he goes up, he's basically going off for a line change, and the referee is over by the benches, and Weidman skates up right in front of the opposing bench too. They all saw it and reacted. And he cross-checks this ref right in the back. I mean, just cracks him right in the back. The referee goes down, and he just gets on the bench like it's no big deal. As if no one was going to see this, because in this age of technology where we have 100 cameras at every game, no one's going to capture this. Cross-checking an innocent, basically an innocent person. I know he's on a ref and he's on the ice, but an innocent person in the back. I mean, that you could almost try and get him for assault on this.
Yeah.
As a legal thing, and I haven't heard anything of the ref, actually doing anything like that. But 20 games, it may sound like a lot. It's an 82-game season, but I think he should have been. Rafi Torres earlier got a 41-game suspension. I think they could have easily given this to Weidman.
Yeah. Well, what was even more pathetic was that after the game, he said, "Oh, I didn't see him. He was in my way." That's a joke. That's an absolute joke. So, I mean, I guess now that the league has given him the suspension, you can't really argue anymore. I mean, I'm glad that he got at least 20 games, but yeah, like you said, I think that it should have been more. Speaking of suspensions real fast, and this is on the NHL again. How stupid is this rule? I wasn't made aware of this until right before the All-Star game. The NHL has a supposed rule where if you are elected an All-Star and you miss the All-Star game, you're automatically suspended one game.
Yeah, you can't play. Yeah,
that is literally the stupidest thing. So basically, we have two guys who missed out in Alexander Ovechkin of the Capitals, right, and Jonathan Toews of the Blackhawks. Ovechkin was injured. Okay. Jonathan Toews was sick. He was under the weather. I can see how the Toews one can be more controversial because you're saying, well, was he really that sick or was this just an excuse to get out? I mean, Jonathan Toews likes to play his hockey. I don't think that he would have missed an All-Star game because, he didn't want to and used sickness as an excuse. So, basically, the NHL is saying, we're going to suspend you one game for being injured. I don't know. That's beyond ridiculous if you ask me. So
yeah, I don't know. What a weird rule. They're just so controlling. It's like that makes them seem really controlling.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if you miss our All-Star game, you're gonna miss a regular game too, and you're gonna like it. Like, who does that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I think that wraps us up pretty well for the NHL, at least for now.
Definitely.
You got your message in. It was a good one. It was a good message.
I definitely got my message in.
All right. Well, what else we got? NBA. I guess that's a league. Cleveland. I think Cleveland made a statement recently, taking down the Spurs. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a big win for them. It's a big win for the new Cavaliers coach too, and making that decision to get rid of Blatt. I think this will help kind of maybe push that whole story, out the back door and move on to the team that they are. Hey, we got talking of speaking of All-Star games, I believe if I'm not mistaken, the NBA All-Star game coming up in 11 days. I believe it's on Valentine's Day, which might cause a lot of conflicts. Girl wants to go out to dinner, do something romantic. Guy's just like, I just kind of want to watch the NBA All-Star game.
Yeah, man.
There's got to be some compromises there. That'll be fun. But yeah, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're sitting there at 35-12. The Spurs are currently 40-8. So the Spurs actually fall now 4 games behind Golden State. Golden State, nothing new. They continue to win. They will be facing another sub-500 team in the Washington Wizards tonight. Do you see anyone really beating the Wizards? Or not? Wow, yeah, the Wizards. Anyone beating the Warriors out in the Western Conference right now?
I mean, with the way that the Warriors dismantled San Antonio, what was that, last week? I don't see anybody. I don't see any games where the Warriors go in and you expect a Western Conference team to beat them. Now, I can see where they go into a game and, they end up losing because they're just, they're a team, they're human, they can lose games. Obviously, they lost 4 games. But, I mean, if you get what I'm saying, I don't think there's any team that we expect in the Western Conference to beat the Warriors, but that's not to say that there isn't a team out there who can beat the Warriors, I mean, just with the way that they play, how quickly, smoothly, everything, they work as a team. They've got just players who can just knock everything down. It's tough to say. It's tough to say that any team can beat them for the rest of the year, as far as expecting them to beat them.
I think you really have to watch a full game of theirs to see how complete of a team they are and how good at passing and shooting and on defense. Sometimes it's easy to forget. We might be looking at, true history here in this team. We're not talking about, the best team right now, the best team in the league, or the best team of the decade. We might be talking about the best team ever, at least in terms of record. They're almost there. They've still got 5 losses that they can, handle and get this record, and they're halfway through the season, over halfway through the season. I just think that gets forgotten sometimes because it's almost like it gets forgotten because they are so good. You get caught up in how good they are and what they're doing to teams, like beating the Spurs by 30. This could be something special, and it's kind of cool for us at 18, really just getting into the prime. We're both, I guess, legal adults now, and that we could see the best team, and they could have this record of the best record in a regular season for a long time. If you suppose they get 9 wins or less, it's hard to envision a team doing that again. Mm-hmm. To lose under 10 times is unbelievable. So yeah. I don't know. It's something really special. It's kind of cool as big of sports fans as we are to be able to witness something like this. Lots of history, it seems like, kind of being made right now. Peyton Manning around the league and all that discussion, and then this with Golden State. So it's just a cool time.
Mm-hmm. And, I think it's good for them that ESPN and some of the other sports networks, they've kind of backed off the Warriors after their undefeated run ended. The networks kind of backed off them and said, all right, we'll just let you play. And obviously they're still covering because they're the best team in the league, but they're, as of right now, the networks like ESPN aren't really putting that much pressure on a team like the Warriors. So yeah, like you said, they play the Wizards tonight.
That game, I was just going to say, that game's going to be on ESPN, and it'll be, I think, like you were saying, the analysts will hopefully just focus on what they do as a team and what they're actually putting out onto the court, and not all the hype surrounding the record and everything. So yeah, it is good to see that. Yeah.
And speaking of analysts, I just want to throw this out there real fast. We were talking a little bit ago about Skip Bayless and that show on ESPN, that show that will not be named. I gotta say that my favorite show in all of sports, as far as those pregame, postgame That's not a word.
Oh boy.
The analyst type shows inside the NBA on TNT. I absolutely
Classic.
love that one. It's an absolute classic. Shaq, Ernie Johnson, Kenny the Jet Smith, and Charles Barkley. That is the best show ever. I absolutely
yeah.
If I
That's
could watch those
unbelievable.
guys all day, I definitely would because they just come up with the funniest things. I mean, I think it's just more of a comedic, thing than it is analytics. I don't even know what I'm trying to say with that word. But they do provide good insight. I mean, obviously they're, experienced players, 3 of them. EJ's been around the game a long time. So I don't know. I love watching that show. I mean, they're so they're funny. Funny guys.
Shaq is like hilarious in his own. Like you can go back and look at
he's
clips
so
and
funny.
he's funny.
Yeah.
And then you put him with Charles Barkley. I mean, that's all you need. And
Oh, yeah.
Kenny's in there just, gosh, boy, they do a great job. You've seen Shaq and a Fool, right?
Shaq to the fool, man. JaVale McGee.
That's
JaVale
like
McGee, the legend. Tragic
like the
Bronson.
That's like the NBA's version of like Come On Man with
Yeah.
Monday Night Countdown and all that.
Yeah,
Man, that's
right.
classic. There are some Shaq and a Fool clips, and it's just unbelievable. You see these clips, and you're like, these guys are your professional basketball players.
Yeah.
Or one of my favorites is gosh, I don't know how they find this stuff. They found a cameraman. I don't know whose game it was, but this cameraman's leg he's lost feeling in his foot. It's fallen asleep, and he has to like play it off. You saw that video, right?
Yeah.
He's just playing it off as he's like stumbling around. He can't get his. Oh gosh, I don't know. They do such a good job with it, but yeah, it's so cool that they've like mastered that balance of like good humor, but still being able to talk about the game well.
Yeah. That's an excellent show. I would definitely recommend it if you have not seen it. Just look up some clips on YouTube, You can find some good stuff. So we're wrapping up here, Garrett. And before we end the podcast, I do want to sneak in some soccer. I definitely want to talk some soccer here. Now, we may have mentioned this before in previous podcasts, but Garrett and I, we are, as far as soccer's concerned, we are Premier League fans. I myself am a proclaimed Arsenal fan. Garrett, are your preferences more towards Everton nowadays?
Yeah, in terms of the Premier League, Everton, but I'm telling you, in the Football League Championship, the league below
Oh,
the Premier League, Middlesbrough, they're making a run. They're in, at least last time I checked, they're in first place in a position to get promoted, and I will be very excited for next season if Middlesbrough gets promoted. They're definitely going to be my team, number one team. It's gotten easier to keep track of the BPL over here in America.
Yeah.
It's almost nearly impossible to ever find a Football League Championship game. I don't think could ever find one on TV.
yeah, probably
it's hard
just
to keep track, but
the championships at the end of the.
yeah. But if they get promoted to the BPL, I'll definitely be tuning in, man. Every Saturday or Sunday or Tuesday and Wednesday. I think that's basically the days that they play on. I don't know.
Yeah.
Any Middlesbrough game, I'll be there, man. I'll be there.
All right. Well, so anyways, if you're not tuned into this Premier League season, if you have any interest in soccer at all, or even if you're not interested, you got to check it out because this is a Premier League season just for the ages, just an absolutely crazy season. Now we've got the team in first place right now is a team by the name of Leicester City. To preface this, Leicester City, they got promoted 2 seasons ago, I think, and they stuck around last season. Nobody expected them to come out here and just play just unbelievably. Unbelievable performances from them. They've only got 2 losses on the season. And they've got a man named Jamie Vardy, their star striker, who's just come out of the works. I mean, we're talking about Jamie Vardy was a guy who was playing on non-league soccer teams, in England and working in, I don't even know where he worked. I can't remember where he worked. Some job that was kind of a blue-collar type job. And now he's out here making big money and he's scoring just huge goals. Garrett, I just showed you before the episode here the goal that he scored against Liverpool yesterday on Tuesday. It was an absolute screamer,
Yeah, that was unbelievable. When you watch the clip, basically the ball gets kind of played over the top, brilliant pass, and it comes down, and you heard my reaction when I was watching this.
Yeah.
I expected him to take a touch and just kind of drill one, upper 90 or something. No, he just lets that thing bounce and just unleashes like a cracker, and the dip on the ball. I mean, if that ball didn't have any, curve or dip on it, that would have been in like the second, the 200 section, if you want to call it that. But
right.
he put some major dip on the, unbelievable goal. I mean, unbelievable season for him.
Oh, man.
There was comparisons earlier in the season because Chelsea has been struggling mightily when they were in first place last year. It was like Chelsea was in first place last year at one point when Leicester was in 20th, and now it's like almost flipped. Chelsea's actually moved up to 13th, but still,
Right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so, I mean, the two headline men for Leicester this season have been Jamie Vardy, who we just talked about, and another guy named Riyad Mahrez, who's kind of a midfield player who's just extremely skilled in terms of dribbling. He's a good finisher, but, and he's a good passer as well. He was the one who played the ball to Vardy on that goal that we were just talking about, I believe. But they're just, I mean, when you look at it, they're just a really complete team. They don't have any, like, all-star players where you look at them, you're like, all right, this guy's world class, but they've just got a team of solid players all around, everywhere, who just know how to play together. They've got a great chemistry, sense of chemistry there, and they play really well. And, I mean, heck, I don't know. You look at the table here, Leicester in first at 50 points. Behind them are Manchester City at 47 points, and then third and fourth are Arsenal and Tottenham, level on 45 points. So it's a really tight race for the Premier League Championship. Without a doubt, really tight. It's going to be really fun to see how it plays out, and that's why, you got to go check it out, because it's just every single game from here on in is really important for those teams chasing the title. So it'll be fun to see how that one pans out. So on the other kind of end of the spectrum, we also talk a little bit here about some international soccer, and of course we are proud Americans, and we are proud supporters of the U.S. men's national team, who are back at it. Their first game of 2016 ended, pretty well. Of course, they're happy to get the win. Final score of 3-2 in their first friendly of the season against Iceland. Probably would have liked to play better against the team, but still a decent team. Garrett, I think you said you got a chance to see like the tail end of this one, where Steve Birnbaum comes on off the bench, defender for the DC United, I believe, in the MLS, and he comes on and he wins the game on a header in like the 90th minute. So that was pretty sick. The U.S. had a pretty disappointing 2015, losing in the Gold Cup, which was really something that we needed to win. Of course, it was a summer tournament with some of the CONCACAF teams. That's like Central America, Mexico. Those teams came to play in the U.S., and the U.S. could not come away with a victory in that tournament. But we've got a bright future. Garrett, did you hear the news about Jordan Morris this past 2 weeks here?
Briefly, I just heard, isn't he kind of back in town, back playing? He's staying in the MLS, right?
Yeah. So Jordan Morris, he's a striker for the U.S. He played at Stanford. He was an all-star there. He's a really fantastic, fast, can do it all type of striker. And he's straight out of college, pretty young. He had a chance to go and train with the team in Germany, but decided to come back and to play in the MLS. He's playing for the Seattle Sounders in the MLS, so we'll see how he kind of fares this coming MLS season. But there's things, the U.S. seem to have things to look forward to. We've got a lot of young talent. Matt Miazga, a young center back, just signed with Chelsea, which is huge. I don't think there's ever been an American center back to sign that kind of deal with one of the world's top teams. So a lot of things to look forward to with U.S. soccer. They've got a game coming up on Friday, I think, against Canada. So we'll see how they play out in that one. Well, I think that will do it for this episode. Garrett, any final words?
Only final words, man. Go Broncos. Hopefully Peyton Manning can pull it out this Sunday.
All
I know
right.
you're going to be watching. I'll be watching. Everyone should be watching.
Everybody should be watching.
At least watch for the commercials, right? And just kind of
Oh, yeah.
tune into the game a little bit, too.
Yeah, commercials,
Okay,
halftime
yeah.
show.
Actually, I do have a quick comment. What
Yes.
in the world is this with these Super Bowl commercials being released early? Now, I don't know if they did this in past years and it's been a thing for a while and I just haven't noticed it. But you can go on YouTube and find practically any commercial. That, like, takes away the fun. Like, you know,
Yeah.
these commercials come on during the Super Bowl and you're, like, ready for them. You're, like, actually, like, excited to watch them. Well, now you can just check them out before the game. It's going to, like, drive their viewership down. If I were the NFL, I wouldn't like, let them do it. But
Yeah.
that's my
Yeah.
final comment.
I guess it's got to be like, something to prepare yourself. You got to be prepared to not look at the YouTube stuff, leading up to the Super Bowl. Anyways, hopefully there'll be some good commercials this year. I don't know. Don't really remember anything in particular last year that was fantastic, but we'll certainly be discussing that in the next episode. All
Maybe
right.
that'll be like our pre-sports talk. You know, we just kind of lead into it. We'll talk
Right.
about the commercials.
Oh, definitely. I'm prepared for that, without a doubt. All right. Well, that'll do it from us. For Garrett Otto, I'm Tanner Ballard. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, and share. And we hope to see you again. Take it easy, everybody.